Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Thank you so much for jumping on here and taking the time out to do this, to tell our listeners, the people that are watching, listening, your experience from, doing your reading. It was so strange because I reconnected with you about a month ago at an event, and I had no idea who you were. And then suddenly when I'm doing the reading for you, I started like remembering like bits and pieces, and I was like, what? Like, I don't get this. So with the process of that, at the end of the night, you really shared some amazing details that I had no idea. And this is from a reading 17 years ago. And I was so blown away. So I am really thankful that you would take the time and share with the people that are watching, listening, kind of like the whole story, how it unfolded, and you know what happened in your life that led you to me. How did you come about that? We're going to talk about how did you find me? How did you pick me out of 100 million other people out there?
Yeah.
um what happened during the reading, and as we came back together 17 years later. So will you take the time and kind of just briefly tell people what happened in your life 17 years ago that made you reach out and decide to get a reading done?
Yeah. Yeah. 17 years ago, my husband was flying up north and he was with our daughter in a plane and two of my daughter's friends. And when they were coming back, they had mechanical failure on the small plane and they crashed. And everyone survived except my husband. And I was devastated to say the least. And I met this guy at Somerset Mall it was like a carnival going on or something. And he was doing card readings. And this was about 5 months after my husband had died. I was taking my younger daughter there just for lunch to give her some one-on-one time because our oldest daughter who was in the plane crash was 24/7 care, and I was with her 100% of the time, but my youngest daughter, I was a little bit worried about her. So we went to the mall just for a couple hours, and then I had my sisters watch my oldest daughter while we were there because she was very sick still. She broke every bone in her body from her neck down, so she could not move. She was flat. So it was very hard to get away. But when we got away, and we were at Somerset Mall, and it was unusual. I've never seen anything like that where they had this like almost like a little carnival going on. There was popcorn and cotton candy, and it was supposed to be some spring event coming up or something. So we just happened to be there on that day. No one was getting their cards read. And this man just said to me, I don't know his name, but he was young and I flipped some cards over and he had a hard time at first reading me, but he knew I was single. And I said, well, I just recently became a widow. And he goes, usually I can see a widow. And then he saw the pain in my eyes. I was ready to cry. I was desperate to know my husband was okay, like he wasn't
Sure.
in pain, suffer. And he told me about a lady named Kelly McLeod, and she's an author, and she is an angel medium. And he said, you really need to go see Kelly McLeod. It was an easy name for me to remember because I'm Kelly. And I wrote it down because back then I was in a real fog and stuff. And then I looked you up, and you were very close. You had an office in Shelby. So it was very close to me. So I made an appointment, and you really couldn't have known anything because you only had my phone number and my first name. And I went, and it was an hour-long reading, and you taped it in a CD back then, and you gave it to, everyone who sees you. And
Mhm.
that was pretty because you forget a lot of stuff,
Yes.
and but the first thing to my reading, you sat down and you said, I see a male strong figure on the other side, and he's very lots of energy, and he's like over here, and that was my husband. He had a ton of energy, so I knew it was him. And then you said right off the bat in the reading, you're like, oh, you had him cremated. And I said, no, I didn't. And I buried him. And then she goes, oh, he wants his hair back. And I said, I don't have his hair. And you're like, oh, you didn't cut his hair, or maybe a locket or something. I'm like, Kelly, I would know if I cut his hair. I didn't cut his hair. And you kept on with the hair. And then you said, well, he wants to be released and he knows you're going on vacation. And I was going on vacation with the girls, and not for another year, but because I had to get my oldest daughter well. But we were going to go in a year to a Hawaii, where we had never been as a family, but it was very sacred to him and I, and we were going to go there. And you're like, well, he knows you're going there, which was unique too, because that was his favorite place on earth. And she goes, well, he wants to be released there, and he wants his hair being released there. And I'm like, Kelly, again, I don't have his hair. And you're like, well, I'm sure you'll figure it out. I'm like, I'm sure I won't, because I don't have his hair. I said, what am I supposed to release there? And like, I was hung up on this, like, and you're like, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, am I supposed to do his clothes, or like, that's all I have, I don't have anything of his. He was buried. And you're like, well, the hair. And like, Kelly, you're stressing me out with the hair. I don't have his hair. And like, this was like, it felt like 10 minutes of the reading or something, or longer. And I was so stressed out because you were so sure, so confident it's his hair and he wants his hair back. And I like, I don't have his hair. So then when you saw me getting a little frazzled, you're like, okay, you'll figure it out. I promise you'll figure it out. So then you moved on, and the reading was beautiful. It was, his personality to a T. You got down like how vivacious he is and energetic. And you knew it was like 6 months later from the accident. And you also knew just different things. He had said, like the energy in the house. I've been in a house for a long time, and we are in a solid house, but since he died, the electricity went off and on when I would go in the rooms. And you told me that. And then for 6 months, it was like people were throwing dimes at me as I walked. And I found dimes everywhere. Never found dimes before he died. I would find pennies or something, or maybe even a quarter, but never dimes. And I just thought it was weird. I was like, what's with the dimes? Like that was something in the back of my head. I was just like, and then you said he comes to you in electricity and he's coming to you in dimes. So that was kind of comforting. And the reading was really beautiful. You made me feel exactly what I wanted going in, that he wasn't suffering. You definitely, I knew it was him. You kept validating through the reading. My husband was a physician, and he was very science man, and he didn't believe in God sometimes. And so it was, hard for me because I was raised Catholic, and so are our daughters. But he really didn't. And it was, and during the reading, he said he wants to tell you right now. You said to me, Kelly, that he is a big believer. He really believes now. And so like that validated me again. Like he wasn't a believer down here, but like up there, he's
Right.
a believer. And so she just said he is a big believer. And then, and that was validating. There was a joke about a necklace he had given me for Christmas before he died, and it was a diamond necklace, and it wasn't the one I wanted, and it was smaller. And I thought, I have to buy something or he'll like forget about it after Christmas. You got to do it when the iron's hot. So I had bought this necklace thinking I'll just return it and get the one I really want later. And the jeweler said he would do that for me. I told no one. Okay. So this like necklace increased many carats. Okay. So no one knew about it. And it was just, that was it. I got the one I wanted. And in the reading, he validated again. He goes, he wants to know what's the deal with the your diamond necklace. It's growing. And I said, I don't know what he's talking about. Move on. And you said he's really laughing at you right now. He thinks it's funny and he's laughing. But I just didn't even want to deal with it in death. I mean, I was just like moving on, you know. But many times, like you wouldn't have known that, you know.
Right.
So then after the reading, my sister came to my house to help me. I always needed a lot of help with our oldest daughter. And I gave her the CD and she put it in her car, the CD, and I said, listen to it and then just, you know, throw it out or something. I said, I went to see a medium. It was very comforting. And I gave it to her because I'm very close with her. And her husband came with me throughout all the steps of the funeral. Like when I was at the hospital, he was there almost every day with me. I was there every day. The only time I left the hospital was to plan the funeral. I had to pick out the casket. I had to pick out, you know, cemetery plot. I had to go to the cemetery and pick out exactly where he was going to be buried. It was very stressful. And he was like a bodyguard. He came everywhere with me. And so that brother-in-law was in the car with my sister. She's married to him. And then he is just sobbing because right off the bat of the tape is like the hair, the hair, the hair. And he's crying. And then my sister's like, why are you crying so hard? And he goes, I have the hair, you know. And so my sister calls me the next day thinking I'm going to be furious. And he had cut his hair in the casket and put it in a little blue velvet pouch with the guy from the funeral home. And I guess that's common. If somebody wants something like that, they'll do it or something. I had no idea. So I wasn't mad because my little girl, when she woke up from her coma, I had to tell her dad, you know, what had happened and I had to bury him and stuff. And right away, she asked me for a locket of his hair. And I, you know, I was so grief stricken and I was dealing with multiple surgeries and burying a husband. It was just overwhelming. I didn't think of stuff like, you know, somebody's going to want a locket of his hair.
Mhm.
So after I buried him, it was weird. I thought it would have been nice if we all had a little locket to carry around of his hair, but like it was too late. He was buried. And so I wasn't mad at my brother-in-law and I just said, you know, can you give me the hair back? So we got the hair back and then it went in a little locket ring for my daughter. And then we released the rest in, you know, Hawaii.
Mhm.
And it was nice. And my brother-in-law said he didn't know why he did it, but
Right.
he just and he said then he put it in a drawer and he didn't know what to do with it. And like month after month passed and he just didn't know what to do with it. And then he was getting freaked out and he said too much time had passed. So then he felt like he was going to get in trouble and like everyone would yell at him and stuff. But no, it was very comforting. I was glad he did it. And you were the only one who knew about the hair. And like that's what we released, the hair, you know. So, you know, but yeah.
That is such you know,
Mhm.
and I am so sorry for the loss because you went through, I mean, that's devastating. Your husband was actually the pilot that was flying, even though he was a doctor, that was his passion.
Right.
And not only did you lose him, but you almost lost your daughter.
Yeah.
And there was, I mean, that was a lot to take on. So I really appreciate you sharing, you know, the story of what had happened and then how you came to, you know, connect with me. So
Yeah.
I have no idea who the young man is that sent you my way, but I am very grateful to him.
Yeah. He knew
Um,
you. But I don't know. I really don't know his name or anything. It was just we walked up and we didn't even like go to him. We were just standing next to him. It was everything like kind of happened for a reason. And then he goes, you know, I really can't help you with my cards. I'm not the one, but Kelly McLeod would help you. And he goes, you'll
oh,
really. And I just, because I think I was asking him, is he okay? Can you see anything? And he's just like, I'm not the person for you. Kelly McLeod is. And, you know, you just want to make sure, like, I mean, my daughter got taken to the hospital, my husband got taken to a morgue. And I just felt like he should have been taken to the hospital. You know, he was dead. on impact, but I didn't know that because they declared Katie dead on impact too. And then she moaned in the middle of the night, and a fireman said I heard her moan, and they started pulling her out very quickly. But I thought for so long Mike was alive too. And then when I saw the autopsy report, which took about a year and a half before I got it, it took a long time. He definitely died on impact with his injuries.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
but
now let's talk about how did this happen? Like, like I heard this validation 17 years later. So about a month ago, you came to the winery event, which is Filippo Mark Winery, and I do an event there called A Night with Spirit, and it's a group style event, but it's a very small event, very intimate, and everyone has the choice to connect with an angel, a spirit guide, a loved one, or ask a psychic question. And again, I had no idea who you were. I had no idea. And you had said, everybody they get that choice, and you said, I want to connect with my husband. So kind of help me, because a lot of times I'm channeling that information. So I have like half the time I don't even remember. So what was that like at that event that night?
yeah, so we found you through Facebook, and I always enjoyed my reading. But and this was the second time seeing you. It would have been almost 17 years later. And we were at the winery, and I went with my secretary from work, and she wanted to connect with her dad and stuff, but she ended up asking questions instead because I didn't know we could ask questions. So it took a turn. But it was really a nice evening. It was intimate, 14 people roughly around, and it was nice. It was fun that night. I enjoyed it. But you're excited to get connected. It's almost like dialing them up in heaven, like you get to talk to them or something, and you're
Yes.
nervous, but you just want to know they're still with you. And when I asked to talk to my husband, and you like kind of closed your eyes, and you said something about a plane crash right away, and then you said, wait, have I read you before? And like you didn't know anything. And then that's when I opened up and said, yeah, 17 years ago. And then I really wanted to thank you for the hair, because if I didn't really go to you, I don't think I would have ever got the hair back. My brother-in-law was very scared that he did that, and he felt like he crossed the boundaries of cutting, my deceased husband's hair. And at the time he thought it was something loving to do. And then it went to like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Why did I do this? And I never
Right.
ever told anybody about it. And he put it in a drawer and was scared, completely scared to like tell anybody. And so I was grateful I found you so then I could find the hair, and know
Yeah.
about the hair. So but when I went to the winery, we reconnected, and you answered some questions again about, my husband, and that he's still with us, and this was his passion to fly. He had been flying since he was 15 years old, before he could even drive a car, and he lived and breathed and ate flying. And you just said this was what he wanted, and how he would have, if he didn't want to die, but if he had to die, this was his exit. This is what he wanted to, he chose that, which was kind of a hard pill to swallow. But he left me with two small children, that's for sure, and one very sick one. But hopefully, it will get easier one of these days.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing that. And it's like I like to remind people that grief is grief. We don't ever get over it. Like I get so aggravated with people that, here it is 17 years later,
Yeah.
and it almost feels, am I correct in saying it almost
Yeah.
feels like it was yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, you move on, and you definitely have a life, but it's always right there in the back of your head,
Yeah.
on the like Pandora box. And sometimes a smell or a song or somebody's standing the way he did, or something happens, and it's just like tsunami rolls over you.
Yes.
They're like, wow, and you're right back there, and like it was the second you get the phone call, you know, like this went down. But you know, it's just you get stronger. It doesn't get easier. You get stronger carrying the grief. You know how to
Yeah.
deal with it. It's so raw, but it's the same raw like 17 years ago, but you're just stronger. You just know how to deal with it, hide it, mask it, move on. But you like get over it, or somebody says no, but you do, you know, life goes on, and you hope they're helping you. And I definitely feel him helping me
Mhm.
during different times. You know, he's still here, but I mean, it's fun to go to the winery and just like you almost feel like you're getting a dial tone with him through you,
Oh,
you
I
know?
love that.
It is. It is really fun. And you just, and sometimes it's just to know he's still there, you know,
Yeah.
he's still there. And you get many signs. And I mean, sometimes you get frustrated because you wish, you know, they could help more.
Yeah.
But I think they do help more than we know, you know, and I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that you reconnected. I love being able to get the validation because I had no idea. I had no
No,
idea about, you
yeah,
know, what transpired. I had no idea about, I didn't even remember the reading. I mean, 17 years and I see so many people, but that was amazing. So not only do I thank you, I'm grateful because, to hear that it helped you, to
it did.
hear that, we talk about there are a lot of people that will turn around and, it's like they'll give you a part of a message and then if it doesn't match, it's just like move on. But spirit is very persistent, evidently. Um,
Yeah.
like your husband was with, the hair and, the things like that. So I love to hear those stories because I don't always remember them. And I think that, hearing what you said about, getting that dial tone or getting that sign, even if it's a little sign here and a little sign there, it's so helpful.
It,
Grief never leaves. It's like it's just like that monkey on your back kind of thing. It never leaves. I like to tell people, you don't get over it, you
no,
learn to get through it. You don't move on, you learn to move forward.
right.
And and it's a different like I said, that when I lost my husband 5 years ago, or just over 5 years ago, you learn a new norm of living.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, you do. You really do. And
Yeah.
you know, but I mean, going into your reading, originally I was anxious, I was nervous, I was scared, he was in pain. You know, this was a plane crash. I thought, God, did he sit there and suffer? And like I came out of your reading peaceful, calm, and knowing he was okay. And you're like, it was so quick. And the autopsy said it was so quick. I mean, like everything you validated, but I didn't know it. And like all the dots connected. But like leaving that reading, it just made me feel like, okay, he didn't suffer. He believes in God now. He's a big believer. I mean, that was a huge sign for me right there. And you said it more than once. He wants me to tell you he's a big believer now. Boy, was he wrong, you know? And I mean, that you wouldn't have known that. That's no way you could come out with that. And so there was many things during the reading that just made me comfort that he was at peace, he's in heaven, you know. And I just didn't know because he wasn't, you know, he didn't believe in God. It was just I was just anxious. And coming out of the reading, I felt like so peaceful and I was okay. You know, I was okay. I didn't seek out other readers. I didn't seek out like I mean, I was busy with life, but you know, I did always want to like if I saw you in the area and it just I happened to see it and then my secretary she wanted to connect and I said let's do this will be fun. And I said I really feel I owe it to this lady Kelly McLeod to say you help. I said to my secretary, she goes, you never told her? And I'm like, no, I don't even ever know. We're not girlfriends, but I don't have her phone number.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
like, I didn't even know where to find you again. Like I didn't had lost the number. I had no idea. And so I said, she's really nice, let's go. And then I really wanted to tell you, like, thank you. I was so grateful. And I found his hair.
Oh my
So
gosh, Kelly,
yeah,
thank you so much. I cannot even tell you how much I appreciate you, not only in general, but I appreciate you jumping on here and reliving your story, telling about the reading, telling about our reconnection 17 years later, and giving me that validation because, to me, when I hear that, I'm like, it's like a kid at Christmas. You're like, oh my gosh, I get just as much out of connecting with a loved one for
mhm,
someone as they get out of me connecting with their loved one for them. So to
mhm.
me, that is like the highest, blessing, and it's the greatest gift. I can't even thank you enough, and I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you. I'm very grateful for what you've done for me.
Oh,
You continue to do your work because it's a blessing. And
awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. I look forward to seeing you again in the future, and hopefully I'll see you again at the winery.
yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah.
Great. All
All
right,
right.
Kelly, thank you. Bye.